Found Duckling by EvaDragon. Chapter 3. The Brothers Meet. Summary. Tim meets Danny out of the suit. It's as awkward as it can be. Danny groaned as he came back into the world of wakefulness. Red Robin and Hood watched as he went through the 5 stages of grief as he rubbed his hand over his face. Both vigilantes snorted quietly to themselves. This caused Danny to whip his head towards them as though he heard them. "Ancients, you scared me half to death," Danny exclaimed.
"Can't kill what's already dead, Casper,"
Hood retorted. Danny snorted. "Oh God, there's 2 of them," Red moaned. "So that wasn't some weird trippy dream then?" Danny asked.
"No, definitely not a dream. You up for food?"
Hood asked as he snapped, crackled, and popped. Sleeping on Danny's too small couch was definitely one of the worst nights. -1 out of 10, do not recommend. Add in the fact that he'd had to share with the replacement, well, things couldn't have been any less comfortable. Dude, ghost metabolism means that I'm practically always hungry, especially if you're cooking. And again, the food doesn't come back to life and attack. Even better, Danny said as he grunted and popped a few bones in his own back.
"What does that even mean? You said that last night too."
Hood asked while he began making breakfast tacos for the 3 of them. So Jack and Maddie Fenton, world-renowned ectobiologists, or they wish they were in any case. What that actually means is that they study ghosts. Now, their actual study on ghosts is shit. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. If you've been able to access their stuff online, you'll see it's full of prejudices and biases. Their papers are what helped write the Anti-Ecto Control Acts. I'm obviously sentient and sapient. All 3 men snorted. My intelligence is sometimes questionable, but sentience and intelligence are not the same thing. Anyways, Danny waved his hands in the air to reorganize his thoughts. Ectoplasm, if not stored properly, can have some very interesting results. Mainly in that it reanimates dead things. I still have nightmares about the unionized hot dog rebellions. Don't even talk about how Jazz had to re-kill the Thanksgiving turkey with a broom more than once.
"What the actual fuck?"
Hood breathed out. He had a feeling that was something he was going to be saying a lot when it came to Danny. He already had feelings when it came to child vigilantes, but this was a whole nother level of tomfuckery. This was a literal dead, half-dead child who had been dead for 2 years. Yeah, it was a whole thing. Means I ate fast food a whole lot growing up. Jazz tried, she really did, but there's only so many times I can eat burnt eggs or, well, burnt anything or microwavable oatmeal before the 2 of us just kind of gave up on the whole kitchen/cooking thing. A couple of my friends tried to keep me fed, but again, there was only so much they could do. Hood made a mental note that Danny was entirely too skinny. He wondered if ghost metabolism was anything like speedster metabolism. He began plating the breakfast tacos that he made, and the 3 of them made their way to the small coffee table. Danny cleaned up his school notes and plopped himself on the floor, leaving the vigilantes to take the couch. Danny began vibrating when he ate. And was he glowing? Oh my ancients! Hood, if I had the money to spare, I would totally hire you as my personal chef. But, you know, broke high school barista. Speaking of, what time is it? "It's a little after 8 a.m., Red responded. "Fuck!" Danny exclaimed as he scrambled to pull some of his school notes out. Both vigilantes tensed. "Don't mind me," Danny explained as he rooted through the mess. "My AP calculus project is due before noon. I didn't get as much done as I'd hoped before everything yesterday, so now, the procrastinator extreme that I am, I have to get everything done and submitted. So y'all, free to hang out or whatever, but I'm going to be completely ignoring you while I work. Also, don't freak out. Sometimes when I work, my ghostly side tends to come out." Benefits of living alone. Danny finally proudly produced the notes he was looking for and then fished his laptop out of a well-worn backpack. He set up his workstation on the coffee table, and both vigilantes were immediately forgotten, just as Danny had warned them that they would be. He worked with his tongue stuck out of his mouth, but what was interesting was that whenever Red or Hood would push water, juice, or food within his reach, he would grab it and either drink it or eat it. But all of his external actions were on autopilot. From the vigilantes' viewpoints, it was interesting to watch.
He's definitely got your dream's replacement,
Hood said in wonderment.
I mean, damn, even you're more spatially aware when you deep dive than he is. And it's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, it kind of is, but at the same time, maybe it's because he feels safe, Red mused. Roughly 2.5 hours later, Danny emerged from his deep dive into his calculus homework assignment. He stretched, and both vigilantes winced as his spine made noises that shouldn't be coming from a 16-year-old. Danny blindly grabbed for whoever had been placed next to him, not even registering that he still wasn't alone. Oh, sweet coffee! Danny wiggled excitedly, a soft purring coming from somewhere in his chest. Danny? Are you making that noise? Red asked hesitantly. And just as quickly as the purring started, it stopped, and Danny flushed a deep pink. Yeah, my core does that sometimes, when I'm happy. I can't really control it. What's a core? Red asked in what he hoped was an encouraging tone of voice. Danny had been, so far, willing to share with them, and Red was hoping that would continue. A core is a ghost's everything, like all of their internal organs, heart, brain, everything. But also like a soul. Don't get me wrong, in my human form, I also have all of the human squishy bits. I just have an extra organ, Danny explained after he drank half of his offered coffee. Red Robin looked down at his phone and thumbed through a few notifications. I just got word from Timothy Drake Wayne. He says he's willing to meet if you are. You have his number? Danny spluttered. You'd be surprised, Red deadpanned. You know what? That actually tracks. And yeah, I'm free today. I'm off because of the calculus stuff, plus I wanted study time for my chem exam that's scheduled tomorrow. Just let me know what time. I'll let him know. In the meantime, I've got some reports I need to finish. Hood here is going to stay with you till it's time for you to meet Mr. Drake Wayne, Red stated as he slid out of the window. Danny waited nervously in front of the coffee shop. It wasn't his coffee shop, but in his professional opinion, all coffee shops were basically the same. Some were better than others, and some were absolute shit, but in the end, they were essentially overpriced coffee and pastry shops. Danny shuffled nervously from foot to foot. After having been dropped off by Red Hood with reassurance that Timothy Drake Wayne would be reasonable and calm, he'd been informed of most of the conversation between Danny and the vigilantes. Tim walked up to the coffee shop with his phone in hand. Having to pretend this was a first-time meeting was harder than he thought. Danny had changed his clothes from when he left earlier, and now that Tim was seeing Danny in the daylight, Tim couldn't call Gotham's daylight hours sunny due to the smog and constant cloud cover. He could finally see the family resemblance. Where Tim had always been said to look more like Janet, Danny looked like Jack. But there was no denying that Tim and Danny were definitely related, even if Danny did fit the whole Wayne adoption bait bit. It wasn't hard to see how those thugs had mistaken him for the Drake heir. Danny spotted Tim first. Oh hey, you must be Tim, he said nervously and held out his hand for a handshake. Tim took Danny's hand and noted the many scars on his hand. Yeah, you must be Danny. I can't believe Red Robin messaged me about a potential brother. Let's go inside so we can talk. Sure thing, Danny said as he rubbed the back of his neck. Hey, Tim, who's the new kid? Said the blonde barista working at the front. Hey, Harley, this is Danny. Try not to scare him off, okay? Tim replied as he placed an order for both himself and Danny. Wouldn't dream of it, Birdie, Harley laughed. Tim led Danny to a corner booth. Both men clocked all of the potential exits, although Danny was more than happy to let Tim have the seat facing the door. They sat in awkward silence till Harley called out their order. They sat sipping on their coffees. So I brought the box I found, and I'm sure you're going to want a DNA test, but I'm sure Red Robin told you about the ghost stuff, right? Danny asked after his fourth sip of coffee. He did. I would like to see the box, though, if you don't mind, Tim said softly. Are there any topics about ghosts that are considered off-limits or taboo? There are a couple of things. First, it's considered extremely rude and a fast way to an ass-kicking if you ask a ghost how they died. If they offer the information first, you're good. Second, all ghosts have obsessions. It's what keeps the ghosts anchored here in the mortal realm. Some are super easy to figure out. Like there's a ghost back in Amity called Box Ghost who's literally obsessed with all things square, rectangular, or cubed. Others are harder to figure out. But again, asking about it is a fast pass to an ass-kicking. I'm not quite ready to tell you how I became half-ghost, Danny explained. Yeah, that's fair. Red Robin said that you're here in Gotham to go to uni? Oh yeah, mechanical and aerospace engineering. I wanted to be an astronaut when I was younger, but the whole ghost thing kind of killed that. Danny snorted into his coffee, and Tim smiled. Did you ever think to find any other family members? I mean, I'm fairly prominent here in Gotham, Tim asked, genuinely curious as to why Danny hadn't sought him out. If it had been for the kidnappers, their paths might not have crossed. Well, that's a lie. Danny was Wayne adoption bait central, and he did look strikingly like Tim. So he would have been kidnapped eventually. Tim was honestly surprised that he hadn't been kidnapped prior to this. Well, sure, I saw your name, but honestly, I thought you were like a cousin or something, and what was I going to say to that? Hi, I'm your cousin Danny from People Who Died. Can we be family now? Sure, that would have gone well. That caused both Danny and Tim to snort into their respective coffees. Danny had a point. So, how did you want to do the DNA test? A hair sample would be fine. Red Robin has access to some advanced testing methods. I'm guessing you don't want anything to get public until both the GIW and the anti-ecto control acts are taken down? Tim asked with barely suppressed rage. Yeah, being vivisected once is enough for a lifetime. Half-life. Whatever. As long as it doesn't get out of whatever system that Red Robin uses. Because if it gets out, it will ping on the GIW's system, and they'll swarm Gotham. Hood for sure will ping on their sensors, and I'm thinking a couple of the other bats will too. I've felt a few other liminals flying around, but haven't met all of the Gotham vigilantes to be able to tell you which ones. This was news to Tim. If he were guessing, he would probably say it was Damien and Cass, since both of them had been exposed to the Lazarus pits as well. Tim watched as Danny reached up and pulled out a few of hairs and wrapped them in a napkin. Just remember what I said about the ectoplasm. If you account for that, you should be fine. But hey, I've got a chemistry test tomorrow, so I'm headed back to my apartment. You can tell Red Robin and Hood that they're both welcome to check in, especially Hood if he's going to cook for me again. I've got a shift at the coffee shop after my test, so maybe we can meet again in a couple of days? Yeah, I should have those DNA results back by then. Here's my number. It was nice talking to you, Danny, Tim said as he handed a business card with his cell number on it. Danny gave Tim his number, and they agreed to meet again in a few days. Well, having met him both in and out of the suit, what do you think? Jason asked him as they both watched Danny board a bus. I have no fucking clue. Notes. Danny. So, are you traumatized yet? Because, there's more where that came from. Hood. If you don't stop, I'm going to bitch slap you into the next week. Danny, please. I can take it. You're not stronger than me. I've been tanking hits from being stronger than you since I was 15. Red Robin whimpers in the corner. Why can't my family be normal?